Good evening, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans, aka Starting Parker on Twitter, and we had an interesting weekend at Berlin. It is definitely not one of the higher tier ARCA races of the season, and sad to say it was maybe one of the weaker races of the season, but we're going to go through all of it. We're going to go through the Elko preview. I may be there, I may be not. We're going to get into that when we get that part of the show. We got a fun show for you guys today, so I welcome you all who are already here. I'm going to go through my little intro that you guys know are used to at the beginning of every podcast I go through, and we will jump right into the ARCA action. So you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media at Startin' Parker on Twitter for ARCA tweets, lower budget NASCAR tweets, and occasional dumb stuff I tweet all the time. You guys know how it goes. Like and subscribe to the channel. We just about to hit 1,200 subs. Thanks again for your continued support. Turn on that bell for all notifications so you guys never miss a podcast when we're about to go live. And, of course, check out theracingexperts.com for all NASCAR media-related content. So, yeah, Berlin. Berlin's a good track. It is, I would say it's one of the more underrated short tracks in the country, to be honest with you. It is a very underrated short track. It's got a lot of positives to it. It's one of the very few racetracks in the country that doesn't actually have a back straightaway wall. Simply, if someone were to wreck off the backstretch, then they would go sliding into the grass and sliding into the trees. The track is very old school-esque, and it's fun. It's a very, very fun track to race on. But one of the main concerns, and I expressed this on last week's show, was Berlin has always struggled with car counts. And it really sucks because the races that we've seen there the last couple years have been pretty decent, even despite the car counts that, we've been getting. But even going through past ARCA races, for some series that we're still getting, 30 cars a race, the last time we had more than 30 cars for an ARCA race at Berlin was 2011. Ever since 2012, it has been under 30 cars, and relatively it's been going down more and more and more as the years have went on. So it sucks. I don't think it's a reflection of the track. It's just these short tracks in the Midwest, it's not the highest profile for a non-full-time team in the ARCA series. It's just not a profile track for them to go to. They want to go to the companion races where the NASCAR series are going to be that, or they want to go to a well-known short track that's maybe on the East Coast and not go all the way out to the Midwest. Like, for instance, and ARCA actually did take a break. Sorry, didn't mean to screw up right there about it. ARCA actually did take a break from Berlin. We ran all the way up until 2018 when we had that infamous finish with Joe Grab Jr. and Corey Heim. And then they actually took a couple years off, 2019, 2020, mainly due to COVID. And then we returned back in 2021. We had 16 cars there, and we've now had 17 the last 2 years. Now, last year's race, the last couple of years were just dominated by Daniel Dye. 2021, he dominated that race. 2022, without a doubt, he had the race won until a mechanical problem with literally 8 laps to go took the win away from him. He was going to win that race. And, the unfortunate part is we literally kind of saw the exact same thing happen in this race with Jesse Love. He had the car to beat, and then unfortunately a mechanical problem pretty much screwed him for the win. So we're going to go over the whole race here. Not necessarily a lot to go over at the same time, considering we had a guy completely dominate the race, but still plenty to go over nonetheless. So we had 17 cars enter this race. The noble entries, of course, the full-timers, and then the oddball entries we had Sean Hingorani making a rare main series appearance, non-East combo, so good to see him. We had Roger Carter. Yes, that Roger Carter. Remember him? He ran in the ARCA series as an owner-driver in the early 2010s for Carter 2 Motorsports. Rita Goulet's husband, Tim, officially made his ARCA series debut. Matt Kemp. Love Matt Kemp. If you guys saw him on Twitter, he literally did the one thing that I want to make an ARCA start for. He literally made an ARCA start just so he could get a racingreference.info page. I love that. I absolutely love that. He made an ARCA start just to get a Racing Reference page. Even though it wasn't a full race attempt for Fast Track Racing, I still thought that was very cool to see him, live his dream. Because, and it's my dream too. And hopefully if I can get the money someday I can live that dream. And then, of course, we had Brad Smith entering 2 cars. Now, I said multiple times on here that I really was confused that Brad was still being allowed to run the 49 because the Chevrolet has a lot of damage to the front nose. And I mean a lot of damage. I don't know if they ran over a piece of lead or they ran over just a piece of something. But texting me some photos, there was a lot of damage to the front. It's going to need a new nose. You can't buff it back out with a hammer because, it's a fiberglass body. Is it fiberglass? I forgot what the noses are made out of. But, I'm kind of surprised ARCA let him run the 49 this weekend with how bad the nose is. There's no way it fit the templates. But I guess since it was a start and park and they needed cars to help fill out the field, I guess they kind of just made some exceptions. We'll go with that. Composite nose. Thank you, Fast Track Racing. Yeah, composite nose. Yeah, you're not going to buff that back out. It's going to need a new nose. He is running the Chevrolet this weekend at Elko. So I was kind of confused. If he actually is going to run that car or if he's just saying Chevrolet, but then actually going to bring the Ford. We'll have to see. So, yeah, we had 17 cars. The start and parks I expected for the race. Obviously, the 49 of Jeff Smith, who is not 123 years old. I have no idea how Fox messed that up. I will say, though, shout out to Fox for getting the number right on the graphic. They actually got the 48 with the little red smudge on it to make it 49. But then they ruined the graphic by putting age 123. No. He is not the oldest ARCA driver. And trust me, Jeff Smith got a pretty good laugh out of that. No, he is not 123 years old. He's not. He would look great for 123, but he's not. But yeah, so 17 cars, practice results. Practice results went like this. We obviously expected William Sawalich. He was my pick to win the race on last week's show. Unshockingly, he was clear he ran a qualifying lap at the very, very end because he was over 0.3 faster than the field. He was first. Sean Hingorani was second. Jesse Love was third. Frankie Muniz, and they were debuting a new sponsor this weekend, was fourth, and Andres Perez de Lara was fifth. Tony Breidinger, again, definitely showing a lot of improvement with her driving abilities in sixth. Tony Cosentino, shout out to that team. They blew a transmission only a couple hours from their shop and barely made it to the end of practice. I think they got on track with like 10 minutes left. So shout out to Cosentino's team for not giving up and making it to the race. Christian Rose was an 8. Matt Kemp, for his debut race, he showed a lot of speed. He was the fastest of the Fast Track Racing cars in 9th. John Garrett was 10th. Zachary Tinkle in a rare main series appearance, non-East related. It was good to see him. It was 11th. Tim Monroe was 12th. Roger Carter was 13th. Brad was 14th. Tim was 15th. AJ Moyer was 16th. And Jeff Smith, of course, was 17th. Qualifying was kind of different. We had kind of the same results. Jesse Love, though, would get the pole, not by much, about a half a tenth. He would beat William Sawalich by. Hingorani was third. Tony Breidinger, shout out to her. We know she's driving a great car, but shout out to her. She actually qualified very, very good. 4th place. Very good job for her. Christian Rose was 5th. Arguably, I think that's his best qualifying run of the year. Andres Perez de Lara, surprisingly only down in 6th. Zachary Tinkle in the fast track car, outrunning a factory Ford. Gotta love it. Gotta love it how Zachary Tinkle and the fast track racing team outran Frankie Muniz. Tony Cosentino in 9th, John Garrett down in 10th. And like I said, Roger Carter, who I will say this, for his first start back in a while in Alex Club's car, who we know it's definitely not the fastest car out there, still ran pretty decently with it. 11th place. 12th was Matt Kemp. 13th was Tim Monroe. 14th was Tim Goulet. 15th was AJ Moyer. 16th was Brad. And Jeff Smith did not take a time. So we got going green. I did miss the start. I got started the race about halfway through, but I rewounded it and then just kind of fast forwarded. And really, honestly, I didn't miss much. But what I got out of it was we took the green flag, and immediately one lap in, the 49 spins. And I'm like, oh, come on. Jeff, I love you, man, but come on, buddy. We got one job to do. Your job is to run 2 laps and then park the car. And he still spins out. And I'm like, oh, Jeff, I know you're on old tires. I know Jeff Smith was on really, really old tires. But, man, spinning, I'm like, oh, come on, Jeff. Come on. So he brought out the caution, immediately parked it. And I love, like I said, that's when he got on TV. And again, he is not 123 years old. God forbid if he was. That would be awesome to see a 123-year-old run an ARCA race. If there's a series that you will see a 123-year-old guy, it'll be an ARCA. I don't think Herschel is going to make it to that far, but I hope Herschel makes it to 100. That'd be awesome to see Herschel run a race at 100. So we got that going green again. Tim Monroe would pull off after 15 laps. It was definitely clear the slower cars were becoming a problem early in the race. Jesse Love would get the lead. Sawalich was able to hang with him. But Hingorani, shout out to Hingorani, man. You know, he doesn't have a lot of main series starts. He hung right there with his teammate. He actually would get past William Sawalich. It was kind of a battle for second throughout the race. You had Jesse Love, who was dominating. You had Sawalich and Hingorani battling for second. And then you had Dallara, Breidinger, Muniz, Rose, Cosentino, and Tinkle. Literally all of those drivers battling for 4th through 9th. They pretty much had even playing field in terms of speed. They are running around the exact same lap time. Sometimes it'd be about a 10th off from each other, but pretty much they are running about the exact same lap times almost every single lap. And then you kind of had the 66, who was not necessarily as slow as them, but was faster than the stragglers. Garrett was kind of running his own race. And then you had the 03, 31, 12, 06, and 48 were kind of the stragglers, as I like to call them. Brad and the Ford, obviously, with the damage to the nose, Brad was forced to run the Ford. He does not necessarily want to run the Ford at these short track races. He wants to keep that as a big track car. I think track's bigger than Phoenix. He'd rather run the Chevrolet is a short track chassis. That car is made for short tracks. So, he didn't necessarily want to run it. So it's not shocking to me that he did start in Park Berlin, or else he probably would have tried to go the whole distance if he was running the Chevrolet at Berlin. So after 15 laps, Tim Monroe pulled off. After 51 laps, Brad would pull off. The cars that were continuously pretty slow were the 06, 31, and 03. AJ Peterson, they were running the Toyota this weekend, which is not one of their quicker cars. They came in under green to try to fix the car. They went back out 20 laps later, but they unfortunately were parked after 14 they finished 14th, but they were parked after 75 laps for being too slow on track. And at the same time, on the first break, that is when on lap 75, the 12 of Matt Kemp would pull off the track. So that would leave us with our remaining 12 cars that were going to attempt the first race. And, throughout the first break, like I said, not much happened. But we did see Jesse Love set such a torrid pace that he actually put himself in just, 3 cars were on the lead lap? 3 or 4 cars were on the lead lap. I mean, it was an amazing pace that he was setting. The 2 of Dallara got back on the lead lap, but again, he just clearly didn't have the speed to hang with the leaders. Went back after the first break, and just again, the 20 is pulling away, the 18 trying to hang there, but he really can't. It's once again a battle for second between the 15 and the 18. And then, like I said before, you have the 2, he's kind of in his own battle, but then you have the 25, 30, 32, 45, and 11. Again, they're all pretty much running the exact same lap times. So it's actually quite interesting when you see the back markers of Tinkle and Cosentino really taking it competitively to the factory Fords of Muniz and Rose And then, of course, the factory Toyota of Breidinger. It's really impressive. And it really just goes to show you on a well-prepped car, even these lower tier teams at these short tracks can really show their muscle. You know, if only they just had maybe some better motors in those cars, you would see Cosentino and Tingle probably battling for the win. But yeah, we'll say, though, the 03 and the 31, you know, I do defend lap cars maybe a little too much on the show sometimes. And sometimes I should be a little bit more hard on our team, the 48 sometimes. I will say this, though. The 03 and the 31 were really off the pace. It was kind of shocking to see how slow they were. Now, I don't know if they had tires to change. They were only, I believe, allowed 6 tires in the pits. Now, I understand it was Rogers' first appearance back, and he was definitely showing more speed than the 31 was. And I understand it was Tim's first start, and again, lack of tires may have been an issue with that. But it was just surprising. It was a 10-tire race, 10 tires. Okay. Yeah, and no disrespect to these organizations, no disrespect to Rise Motorsports, no disrespect to Alex Club. Alex is one of my best friends in the garage, and Tim and I mean, I've been friends with Tim Goulet since his Mike Harmon days, you know, well over 5 years ago. So both guys are very good friends of mine. Just no disrespect, but it shocked me that ARCA didn't park them. It really shocked me that ARCA didn't park them. They weren't a hazard out there. It's just they were just slow. They were just slow. But it's not like they couldn't hold their line. They were getting out of the way. They were. It's not like they were, you know, washing up in the corners and intentionally blocking people. They were getting out of the way. But it just kind of shocked me seeing how far off the pace they were. And even the 31 of Goulet bringing out a caution. And they still didn't park him after that. So, but I guess, you know, maybe it's them giving him a pass because, you know, it's his first start and they want him to finish. And then both cars ended up finishing. The 03 finished 25 laps down and the 31 finished 29 laps down. But I mean, come on. You know what I mean? 25 laps down and 29 laps down on a short track. Like, come on. So then we had, like I said, we had the 10 cars that could actually hold some decent speed. We had the 31 spin after the break. And that was pretty much it. We had Toni Breidinger get back on the lead lap again. Shout out to Toni Breidinger. Really, shout out to her for staying ahead of Frankie Muniz and Christian Rose. You know, again, 2 factory Ford teams who you would probably expect to run better than her. And she was ahead of both of them and got the free pass and locked herself into a top 5 finishing position, which I believe is her best career ARCA finish. Would be her best career ARCA finish. The one interesting thing I noted, though, is that Toni Breidinger had a Pit Viper and Victoria's Secret logo on her car for practice and qualifying. But then the time the race comes, there were photos that were leaking around. Her car was completely blank. Now, was this race on Tony's initial schedule? Because just like Elko, this was not a race that was originally on Tony's schedule. Makes me wonder if Toni is she going to go the whole season at this point again? I mean, she might as well. She's already planning to run more than half the schedule with the Victoria's Secret money. I mean, I can't imagine she doesn't have the sponsor dollars to run the whole season. She should. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll see Toni actually end up running the whole season. I think that'd be great for her to get more and more experience. She's clearly actually showing improvement. I mean, while with all due respect to her, we saw no improvement from Natalie Decker. We have absolutely seen improvement with Toni Breidinger. We have. So that's a very positive. I love being positive when it comes to seeing drivers improve. You got to love it. So, and that pretty much locked 5 cars onto the lead lap. So it locked Andres Perez de Lara into a top 5 finish and locked Toni Breidinger into a top 5 finish. Kind of sucks for Frankie Muniz because now he was pretty much stuck unless another caution came out. He was only stuck as high to finish 6th. And for Christian Rosen, 7th. And by this point, Tinkle and Cosentino, they had kind of fell off just a little bit in that last run. So they were a little bit more laps behind than the 30 and 32. Over that last 80-lap run, once again, it was the 20. It was the 20, the 15, and the 18. The 18 did make a late race charge. It didn't look like he was going to catch him, But then slowly but surely, with around 15 laps to go, you actually saw the 18 of Sawalich actually starting to reel in, and checking the lap charts, he was running about a couple hundredths faster. Like, it was nothing that was like overly faster. Couple hundredths, maybe a tenth, couple hundredths, a tenth, but he was running faster times than Jesse Love. And yeah, I agree with the chat. I think Hingorani and Sawalich, lack of experience. At the end of the day, even if Sawalich has run Berlin, it's a lot of difference between running the car in a late model and an ARCA car. Two different cars. But Sawalich was starting to reel in the 20. And I think we were later come to find out, I don't think it was because Jesse himself was fading. I think, as we would come to find out, the car itself was physically fading. Not the tires, the car itself. Couple more laps would go by, 5 laps to go, and Jesse is in massive, massive lap traffic, trying to get through these cars. Again, Berlin's not very wide. You know, in these cars, they're taking arcs to get into their corner themselves. So Jesse, couple laps to go, 2 laps to go. Jesse gets stuck behind. He gets a really tough place because you got the 66 of John Garrett, who is faster than the 03 of Roger Carter, but he's still a slower car. So the 66 is trying to get around the 03 as fast as he can. So the 03 is taking the bottom line, but the 66 is taking the top line. Again, no disrespect to both drivers. There's nothing that they could do. Roger was holding his line, and Garrett was just simply trying to pass him. It's like they weren't doing anything wrong. All the people that were blaming the 66, I don't understand what he was doing wrong. He was just trying to get past the lap car. I agree with the chat. I don't see what else John could have done. He was coming up on the 03 so fast himself. I think he probably would have crashed into the 03 had he tried, going behind the 03 to let the leader go by. He probably would end up crashing into him, because even for John Garrett, the closing rate that he had on the 03 was a lot. So I don't see where the 66 could have done anything different. So you can blame the 66, but I don't. I don't see what John Garrett could have done differently. And unfortunately, it cost the 20. Garrett got out of the way eventually when he was clear, but the 18 was there, and boy, did he take it. Sawalich, you could say he braked. He just bam, he just ran right into the 20. And I'm like, why isn't Jesse just slam him back in the corner? And, and this is why I love Phil Parsons. Phil Parsons is one of the best damn commentators in the business. Nobody else would notice it, but he actually called it out. Jesse's car was on fire with 2 laps to go. The car itself was actually on fire. And when they took the white flag, by the way, shout out to the announcer who thought it was the checkered flag. Yes, put Phil Parsons in the booth for Fox. That would be great. That would be great. Phil Parsons should be in the Cup booth, honestly. He's an amazing commentator. But, he noticed that the car was on fire, and Jesse, he didn't retaliate. And I'm like, that's odd. He did not retaliate towards the 18. I don't think the car could physically get back to the 18. The car had given up. And you saw the 18 pull out to a really big lead in just 1 lap. And I think it's because the car was literally dying. I don't think Jesse's car was probably going to make it another probably 2 laps. And unfortunately, William Sawalich steals it. Jesse Love leads 197 laps. But unfortunately in racing, the only lap that truly counts is the last one. And William Sawalich picks up, I believe this is his first main series ARCA victory. I think it's his, 3rd or 4th of the season total from East to Main, but I believe this is his very first main series victory. And I believe it's the first one of the year for the 18 in the main series, right? Isn't that the first one of the year for the 18 in the main series? And if that's the case, that's really shocking considering the 18 is not won yet. But yeah, Sawalich wins. Jesse's car, you can clearly tell it's off the pace as he finishes second, and then bams right back into the 18 after the race is over. I don't think Jesse knew that his car was having issues. I think maybe he just thought he was struggling himself. But I don't think Jesse realized, even in his post-race interview, I don't think he realized that his car was on fire and his car was fading fast. But yeah, Jesse Love would finish second. Unfortunate for him, because he was going for 4 in a row, 4 wins in a row. Sean Hingorani was third. Very solid run for him. Andres Perez de Lara was fourth. A decent run for him. Todem Breidinger, shout out to her, getting her first top 5 finish. Frankie Muniz, sixth. Another decent run for him. Again, it's just trying to build experience in a car that's not a winning car, but it's a top 10 caliber car. Christian Rose, 7th. Tony Cosentino, 8th. Zachary Tinkle, 9th. John Garrett, 10th. Roger Carter, 11th. Tim Goulet was 12th. And then the cars that didn't finish the race, 13th was Matt Kemp. 14th was AJ Moyer. 15th, Brad Smith. 16th, Tim Monroe. And 17th, Jeff Smith. Heartbreak is all you can really call it. Sawalich would admit in his post-race interview, he really did what he had to do. He basically admitted it right there on live television that he did move the 18. He saw his chance and he took it. So, yeah, I as much as you can say the 20 was having issues, the 18 was going to make sure that he won that race. And the unfortunate part is that, Venturini, we know those Venturini guys, they don't forget. They do not forget. So, expect the 18 to get absolutely demolished in the future. We've seen this before. Go back to 2021 with Corey Heim and Ty Gibbs. This won't end well. This will not end well. But yeah, Sawalich, I think it's his lack of experience. A lot of people probably expected him to take the ARC Series on fire this year. And yeah, while he has dominated the E Series, I mean, come on. I mean, there's not a lot of competition in the E Series, especially the standalone events. I think the combo races will be a hell of a lot better. He hasn't been the best in the main series. Now, I'm curious to see what he's going to be at some of these road courses coming up and other tracks coming up. But, yeah, I mean, I see him winning Elko next week, but you never know. You never know. But yeah, heartbreak for Jesse Love. And, he would say in his interview that, it's how the 18 races as always. We'll get back at him one day. So, even then, this battle's not over. Jesse Love, I don't know where he goes next year. It's hard to believe he's been in ARCA for so long. Does he stay in ARCA in 2024 or does he go up to trucks? I don't see him doing well in trucks. I think Jesse would fit better in Xfinity, but I don't think there's really a spot for him in an Xfinity. And where would he even go in trucks? Would he go to Tricon? And if he goes to Tricon, where would he go? Does Corey Heim move up to Xfinity? And does Jesse replace him? Or does one of the Gray brothers leave and, they replace them? I mean, what happens? Where does Jesse go in 2024? Because I can't see him staying in ARCA again next year. Maybe he comes back to ARCA for the, combo races with the NASCAR weekend, but kind of like what Corey Heim did. Yeah, Dean Thompson, maybe he takes over Dean Thompson's ride if they don't return next year. We don't know. But I don't see Jesse lasting in the trucks, lasting ARC into 2024 full time at least. Yeah, maybe Hattori, but I feel like he deserves better than that. Point standings coming after this race. I mean, like I said, we kind of figured this at the beginning of the year. We thought we were going to get some sort of championship battle after Phoenix, but now it's pretty much done. I don't want to say it, but at this point, let's just give the championship to Jesse Love. I love all of our other competitors out there, but in the elite Venturini equipment, you're not going to see Frankie Muniz or Andres Perez de Lara, Christian Rose, Tony Cosentino, Breidinger. You're just not going to see them go up there and physically run better than Jesse Love. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. Maybe 1 or 2 races at most, you will see the 2 actually outrun the 20, maybe see the 30 outrun the 20, maybe even see the 32 outrun the 20, but it's very, and it's not a dig at Muniz, de Lara, or Rose, or Cosentino, or Breidinger. It's not a dig at them. It's just simply Jesse's got the elite car at Venturini. He's got the elite equipment, and they are out to win the championship. Right now, they have a 20-point lead over Frankie Muniz and a 39-point lead over de Lara. Right now, I would say this, de Lara, he's out. And it really sucks that he missed Daytona because it killed any chance of a real championship battle with the 2 most competitive cars. I would say he's done, period. For 40 points in the ARCA series, that is too far to come back from. Unless the 20 like blows an engine in 3 straight races. So, unfortunately, I think we're down to a 2-horse race, but Frankie Muniz, he just doesn't have the experience. He's going to get hurt bad on the dirt tracks. He might do great at the road courses, but I think the dirt tracks he's going to struggle at. Just his lack of experience, he's not going to win the championship. He's not. Dallara, lack of experience. So, yeah. And absolutely, I think that chat says it best. Jesse is a great driver. Jesse Love is a genuine good driver. He really is. And he's in the elite car next to the 18. He really is in the elite car in the ARCA series. So it's not a shocker that he's this dominant. And Shannon Rush is an amazing crew chief. He knows how to set up these cars perfectly. So I think we can go ahead and give the 2023 Drivers' Championship to Jesse Love, but that doesn't mean we still have a battle on our hands, as the Owners' Championship is still up for grabs by quite a few teams. Right now, after this race, Billy Venturini's 20 car is leading the Owners' Championship right now, but only by less than 5 points. Max Siegel's 2 car sits second. Joe Gibbs' 18 car sits third, and they are all separated by just 10 points. So we still have a very, very fun Owners' Championship between Rev, between Gibbs, and between Venturini. And we know that's where the real money comes from the ARCA series, is that Owners' Championship. So just like last year with that battle between the 18 and the 20, we are once again going to have a very, very fun Owners' Championship battle, probably until the end of the season, because there are tracks that Sawalich will not be strong on, like the road courses. He will not be strong on those. Or I even say the dirt tracks. And you have tracks like, the dirt tracks where Jesse Love is probably going to be dominant on because of his dirt background. And then you have tracks like Dallara, it'll just be a really, really fun Owners' Championship battle to the end. I do hate that the Drivers' Championship is already locked up, but it was kind of bound to happen anyway. It just would have been fun to see if Greg Van Elst actually really could have put up a fight, because it looked like he really had a chance at this thing with 2 races in. Yeah, so I know Sawalich will have to miss races. I'm just saying overall he's going to be running the majority of the races in that 18 car. I think the only ones he'll have to miss are I think he can run Michigan. Can't 17-year-olds, 16, 17-year-olds run Michigan? I know Ty Gibbs did. Ty Gibbs ran Pocono before he turned 18. Could have swore Ty Gibbs ran Pocono before he turned 18. Really? Huh. I know you have to be 18 to run Michigan, but I thought, Pocono you can run at 17. Isn't Sawalich 17? Or is he 16? Am I getting my ages mixed up here? Is Sawalich 16? Oh, he is 16. I'm sorry, guys. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought he was 17. So, so he can't run Pocono or Michigan. Can he do the test? Oh, they don't test at Pocono anymore. I'm so confused, guys. I'm sorry. I'm so used to the ARCA test being at Pocono, but they moved it to Kansas this year. So that was ARCA series at Berlin. I definitely think the track deserves to be on the schedule for next year still. It's a very, very fun track. If we could just get a couple more cars. Obviously, I think if we had the addition of the 35 of Greg Van Elst and maybe a couple of other cars that were planning on coming but backed out, it probably would have been a little bit of a better race for sure. But it is what it was. We did get 172,000 views on FS2. So I'll say to the people who say our series is dying and nobody cares, what do you have to say to that? I know 172,000 is not breathtaking TV numbers, but that is still a lot of people who chose to watch ARCA on a Saturday night versus everything else. So for the people who say that our series is dead and that nobody gives a crap, what do you say to that? What do you say to that? We are doing almost the same as IndyCar numbers. I am not even joking. We are doing the same as IndyCar numbers, and we are not even on a main channel. We did half of what IndyCar did, and we're not even on a main channel. Imagine if this ARCA race was on Fox. I guarantee if this ARCA race was on Fox, we probably would have gotten the same amount of viewership that IndyCar does. I can tell you one thing right now, and this is kind of, you can disagree with this all you want, but half the people and half racing fans know who Brad Smith and Wayne Peterson are more than they know half the IndyCar roster right now. Seriously. I love IndyCar, but man, I really don't know anybody in the series anymore. I don't. Whereas, you look at ARCA, you could probably know all the back markers. That's what I love about the series. Yeah, sorry, we're getting off topic. But yeah, that was ARCA at Berlin. I hope it returns next year. Fun track overall. And now we transfer over to Elko. Now, this track is only about 3.5 hours away from me. I'm not still 100% sure if I'm going or not. I did text Brad on my phone if he does need any extra help. So I might be at Elko, I might be not. It's by 50-50 right now. I don't necessarily need a hotel to go to Elko. I can kind of just drive there and back. So that's kind of why I'm kind of still debating on whether I can go or not. Just got to get some clearance. We do have a decent entry list for this weekend. We have 19 cars versus the 20 cars from last year. But I will say about the 20 cars of last year, a lot of those were starting parks. And this year, the entry list honestly looks a lot more competitive. The entry list is as follows for Elko. The number 2 of Andres Perez de Lara. The six car is absent once again. Again, that car was not planned to run full time. The 10 of Willie Mullins, that is actually, I believe it is a Willie Mullins entry under Fast Track Racing. They will be debuting a new Mustang nose on their short track cars. Bryce Hodgeberg returns to the 11 for Andy Hillenberg. Ryan Roulette also returns to Fast Track Racing, driving his own car, the number 12. Sean Hingorani once again returns in the 15. William Sawalich in the 18. 20 of Jesse Love. Connor Jones returns to the 25. Frankie Muniz, of course, in the 30. Rita Goulet returns in the 31. 32 of Christian Rose. Tomeo Cosentino Racing debuts a second car, the 43 of Jalen Mack, who we've seen try to attempt a couple of West races but hasn't shown up. Of course, Tony Cosentino in the 45. Brad Smith in the 48. Tony Breidinger in a last-minute entry in the 55. John Garrett in the 66, and then, of course, the 0 cars at the bottom. The 01 of Davey Callahan, which is also I believe that is a Mullins entry under Hillenberg. Casey Carden, who's run road races for Club, will be in the 03, and, of course, A.J. Moyer. In this field, I don't see any starting parks, which is definitely an improvement from last year. Yes, kind of what I predicted. The 10 and the 01 are built by Mullins, but will be crewed by Fast Track. Thank you for correcting that. So 19 cars, but as I see in there, no starting parks. The only one I could possibly see parking early is Brad, but that's only if he brings the Ford. Again, I'm not sure if they're going to allow him to bring the Chevrolet with the bad nose. Maybe just because it's a short track, because it's a short track and it's not a big deal. There's no way they would let him on the track with that nose at a big track. But maybe at the short tracks, they'll give him a pass. Because I know after this, I think we're done with short tracks for a while. I think the next race, I believe, is Iowa. And I don't think he'll mind bringing the Ford to Iowa. But a track like this, I don't see him wanting to bring the Ford. He doesn't want to get the car. He doesn't want to get the car all bent up, if that makes sense. He wants to be able to keep the Ford nice and good so that way it performs better at the bigger tracks, which I believe is going to run the car at Daytona next year. But yeah, in this race last year, we had 3 starting parks, and we had 17 cars go the distance. And last year's race overall, it wasn't very competitive. Sammy Smith led 233 of the 250 laps last year. His only competition was Jesse Love. The field looked a lot different last year. We still had Raja on the field, Landon Pembleton. That deal blew up with Venturini. Daniel Dye was still in the field. Tom Hezert was still running. Caudell's team ran this race last year. Alex Clubb finished over 100 laps down due to a mechanical issue, but they fixed the car, unfortunately. So looking at it this year, we definitely have a more competitive field. And I guess that's the part that I'm really happy to say is while yes, we don't have as many cars as last year, we definitely have more competitive field. And that's the part I like to say is if we have less cars, it sucks. But if it means we're going to get a more competitive race than we did last time, that's good. That's good. And Elko is one of those fun tracks. You know, it's less than a half mile, 0.375, I believe, so a 3/8 mile. It's one of those, like, you're hard on the gas for like 4 seconds. Like, it feels like you're basically turning the entire time. It's a fun little short track. And even 19 cars can still put on a good race. The logistical winners I can see coming out of this race, Dallara, Hingarani, Sawalich, Love, Jones. I'll even throw in Muniz. As legit probably contenders for the win. So you got probably about 5 to 6 cars that can logistically win this race. The one car, though, a couple of cars, like I said, other than the 48 parking, Rita Goulet, I know they're going to attempt the full race. We just haven't seen much improvement out of Rita Goulet. I was a bit tough on her on my Nashville review podcast, but I feel like it was also justifiably so. She hasn't really shown any improvement in her speed, and my fear is that, you know, with how small Elko is, and it's not easy to get out of the way, with how slow she has been, I'm really worried that either she's going to be involved in a rear-end crash or she's literally not going to make it 5 or 6 laps before she gets parked. And it's no disrespect to her, but she just has not shown any improvement in terms of her speed. And I don't like saying that because I like that team. I love the Rise Motorsports team. I've said, like I just said earlier in the show, I'm good friends with Tim Goulet. He's a great guy. But she has not shown any improvement whatsoever. She really hasn't. I want to be proven wrong, and I hope that, you know, we can actually see her showing some competent speed. But I'll say this. If she is slower than Brad, usually we kind of put the barrier slower than Brad. If you're slower than Brad, and you're giving it everything you got, then you got a problem, okay? And it's no dig on Brad. That's just kind of the way we put a benchmark on it, you know? Like, if you're slower than us, you got a problem. So, yeah, hopefully she can at least run some competent lap times this weekend. Again, it's no disrespect to her, but you got to call it like you see it, man. Ever since her starts last year, she has just shown no improvement. And I'm sorry, but it's not being rude. I feel like it's just constructive criticism. She has not shown hardly any improvement. She's not shown hardly any improvement in her speed. More times than not, she's a hazard out there. It's not being rude if it's the truth. It's definitely the truth. So I hope she can make it as many laps as possible this weekend, but I do not expect Rita. It's not going to be a starting park, but I don't expect Rita to get the whole race in. I don't even expect her to make 50 laps, honestly. So shout out to my boy, though, Michael Klein. He did a test for them at Hickory. Looks trying to make his debut with them later this year. So go to his Twitter page, donate to his cause, man. Good guy, deserves a shot. So shout out to Michael Klein. Go give him a shout out on Twitter. But yeah, so we have about 5 cars that can logistically win this race. Oh God, man, I want to pick Sawalich again. But again, I feel like his inexperience. Jesse Love's been at this track multiple times. So I'm going to go with Jesse Love as my pick to win the race. Wouldn't count out Sawalich, but I think Love, with as many times as he's been here, Love's going to win. Still think it's going to be probably a highly uncontested race because, you know, it's tracks like this that are pretty hard to get the good handle on. You kind of got what you got out there. And, you know, is there 2 breaks in this race? There were 2 breaks in this race last year. You know, even though this race is only 94 miles long, in terms of lap counts, this is actually one of the longer ARCA races in terms of laps. Not many ARCA races go 250 laps nowadays. But in terms of miles wise, it's only 94 miles. So while you think this is a long ARCA race, it really isn't. You're only putting about 94 miles at max on your car and engine. So, yeah, so a lot of people are saying Sawalich in the chat because it is technically Sawalich's home track. So, you know, Williams going to be pushing a lot harder. And, you know, Gibbs is probably going to put a lot more effort into this particular race because they want to get Sawalich a home track victory and take over the Owners' Championship lead. So, yeah, Mid-Ohio is obviously the next one. We're seeing a lot of people talking about Mid-Ohio right now. Hopefully there's some road ringers in there. Mid-Ohio last year in the rain was awesome. I'll still agree that last year's Mid-Ohio ARCA race was one of the best ones of the entire year. Probably one of the best ARCA road race and one of the best ARCA road races in history. But yeah, Elko should be fun. And even Elko, they've struggled for car counts. You know, we talked about Berlin car counts. Elko, I feel like, has struggled even worse. Now, note, ARCA has not gone to Elko as many times as they've went to Berlin. The highest car count for Elko was actually its first year, where we had 22 cars, or 28 cars, I mean. And then ever since then, we had 22 in 2013, 23 in 2014, and then we took a couple years off, returned in 2017, had 22, 2018 had only 18, 2019 had 20, didn't come back for COVID, due to COVID, 2021 had 17, and last year had 20. So, yeah, car counts are staying about the same, but I look at the competitive level of the entry list, and I feel like we're going to be just fine. We're also going to be just fine. And if anybody's in the Elko area, I believe William Sawalich is having an appearance tomorrow at a Menards nearby the track. So I would definitely say if you're in the area and you're going to see the ARC race, go meet William at that Menards. So that'll be fun. But yeah, unfortunately, I think the championship is all but wrapped up. We kind of figured that Jesse Love was going to win the championship anyway, but we still got a fun Owners' Championship to look at. And so, yeah, things are still looking up high for the ARCA series. Ryan and Willie will also be at the Menards. Will also be at Menards location. So look at that for all the ARCA fans, man. If you're not doing anything tomorrow, you're in the Elko area. You want to go meet some ARCA drivers? There you go. Go meet some ARCA drivers, man. You know, these guys. I'll tell you this: ARCA drivers will sit down with you all day and tell stories. Willie Mullins will tell you stories all day. Ryan Roulette will tell stories all day. I don't think William Sawalich probably has as many stories as those guys do, but I'm sure he'd probably give you a story too. So, yeah, lots of people in the area doing Menards stuff. Hopefully Menards does come back as the title sponsor. I think, you know, there were some preview shows that were going on about Charlie Crawl talking about the title sponsor. Hopefully Menards comes back. It's a great series. I wish they would put a little bit more purse money into it, of course, but Menards, great sponsor for the series. They get plenty of recognition. Yeah, just overall, lots of good things still going on for the ARC series right now. A lot of fun. I don't know, again, 100% if I'm going to be at Elko, but obviously I will make that decision. Probably either Brad gets back to me or I make that decision tomorrow. We'll just have to see. So thank you again, guys, for joining on today's episode of the ARC Racing Podcast. I'm going to get out of here. God, we've been here for 48 minutes, and y'all are still here. So, I must be doing something right. Yeah, for Elko, it's going to be a fun weekend, guys. Enjoy Nashville on the NASCAR side. Although I will say for Elko, though, hopefully we get the race in live. There's a lot of weather looking at the race weekend right now. Right now, it's over a 60% chance of rain for green flag time. So hopefully we'll even get the race in. Might be like Iowa last year where we have to run the race at midnight again. So till then, guys, you guys have a great rest of your Thursday night and a good weekend overall. I will see you guys next week. And, yeah, for the ARC Racing Podcast and NASCAR Backmarker Battles. And take care. This is Colby Evans, starting Park Car, signing off. So long, guys.